the value of college degrees have dramatically decreased. They are not worth what they used to be worth. And one of the reasons I think today they are worth less than ever before is the tremendous amount of cheating that goes on in today's schools. It stunned me to find out that cheating is super liberal today. Like, there are so many people. And I've looked up statistics, and some statistics go anywhere from like 50 to almost 90% of students cheating. And as they have recorded and looked at middle school to high school, they have found that cheating only gets worse as the students tend to get older. So in other words, the percentages can be a little bit lower in middle schools, but by the time they get to high school, the degree to which students cheat and the number of students that do increase. And do you think that they really just stop cheating when they get to college? Absolutely not. In fact, I have come to find that cheating has been so pervasive in universities that all you have to do is go around and start asking people. Start asking people. It's like, oh, yeah. What do you think about cheating in college? Like, is it okay? Did you do it? And I came to find out, to my own horror and surprise, to be honest, dude, everybody was talking about cheating. And they didn't even really hide the fact. They were just like, oh yeah, no, I cheated. It was so easy. It rolled off their tongues so easily, so quickly. And I think a lot of you listening to this will even recognize oh yeah, no, I cheated. Oh yeah, I know people. And that was the other thing. Not only did they admit to it themselves, they also said, oh yeah, everyone I know is doing it. Super common. In fact, I even knew one guy. He was the guy who people were going to for cheating help. He was selling papers for $200 a piece. So if you had a 10-page paper, you could come to them, pay him money, and he would write it out for you. Yeah. What does this world come to? And you have cheating in all sorts of forms and fashions, and I totally understand how cheating can be way easier today than ever before. But how is a college degree supposed to mean anything? Think about that. If you're the employer, you're the one who's looking to hire people, and I already don't think that most degrees are actually educating people like they should, but now you can't even trust if the degree that they have titled under their name is really worth anything anyway, because they might have cheated to get there. So, and when you're talking about a degree of students that are cheating of 50%, right? You're a coin flip away. And some other statistics saying that it's even way higher than 50%. Give me a break. How can a degree mean anything if the majority, and I do mean the majority of students who graduate with a degree cheated to get it? So, what does it mean? How can you uphold this degree as a standard of value if you're not holding students accountable for actually obtaining it? It's just completely insane to me. And it blows my mind. And so I feel for friends and businesses and everyone who is hiring college students, it seems that much more difficult for me to say that, oh, that college degree means something. Oh, you have a master's degree in communications? Awesome. You have a master's degree in history or teaching or anything? Okay. What is that supposed to amount to? This is one of the reasons that I'm just such a large proponent of skills and body of work and other sorts of things for indicating somebody's capabilities of performing tasks and jobs. Universities, they're just completely losing grip. And I think it's only going to get worse as the coming years show up. And I think more and more people are starting to turn away from that. I've heard that Google and Tesla and a lot of, Musk companies, they've stopped requiring college degrees as a prerequisite for working there. So, now some people might say, well, okay, students are cheating, but is that really the university's fault? Absolutely. And that is one of the reasons that I want to bring it up. It's not just that I want to bring it up as you, as the student, you need to have more integrity. No, my point is this. Why haven't the universities placed it as a priority for the integrity of education? Why not? And I will tell you why not. Because their priority is not your education. That is not their primary focus. They are not the most focused on, oh, well, let's make sure our students get a good education. No. Their primary focus in many cases is to make money. It's to make money and to make sure that those students graduate. Because you know what? When they get a show off to other people, it's like, oh, well, we had 10,000 students graduate from our university. That's what they care about. That's what's important to them. Not your education. Because you know what? Oddly enough, and I understand, the quality of your education doesn't really show up on paper. If they can show us like, oh, well, these students are not only the graduates of here, but they are actually better students than other universities. Nobody cares. Nobody pays attention to that. And while certain names might be more expensive and more prestigious, there isn't really any evidence that they're actually getting a better education at most of those schools. Now, I do know there are some schools who are a little better than others. Kudos to them. Kudos to them. But as a whole, when we look at colleges and universities today, the problem is that, you know what? The fact that the student's cheating doesn't actually affect the college's bottom line. They don't care as much. And I have heard and seen stories for myself. Students getting completely caught in plagiarism and cheating and all these sorts of things. Do they get expelled? No. A light warning or rebuke, like, you shouldn't do that. Okay, great. You shouldn't do that. That's it, though. That's it. You know why? That's the weakest punishment. Those are the weak things that they're doing. Because number one, they don't care about students and their actual education. So they're not too concerned with them as like, oh, you know what? If we don't punish our students, they won't learn from this lesson and they won't actually maintain or attain integrity, honesty, all of those sorts of things. It doesn't matter to them. It's not as important. So when students graduate and they've cheated their way through school, the university goes, awesome, another student graduated from this prestigious campus. But you know what? They could stop that. They could be more concerned with integrity. They could be more concerned with all of those things. And for the future generations, they could actually maintain the value of the degree if they would enforce rules against cheating, if they would enforce, stricter penalties against cheating. But they won't do that. They won't do that. And why? Because again, they don't care about people's education nearly as much as they care about their bottom lines. And sometimes when you have lots of other things going on, I understand people act in their best interests. And so there's a great quote by Milton Friedman, the late Milton Friedman, the famed economist. And he just said, you know what? You don't create systems where you count on a good person doing the right thing. No, you want to create systems where you incentivize the bad person to do the right thing. And his whole point is that incentives are what you really want to have. You want to incentivize everyone to do the right thing. You don't just like, oh, you know what? I know this isn't in your best interest, but you should just do it because it's the right thing. No, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. People act in their best interest. And I think it's all so important when a student is thinking about going to university. Does that university really have your education as their number one focus and goal? I suggest to you, absolutely not. And hey, I get it. They have to survive. They have, other things that are important. They need to exist. Because if we don't get the grants and stuff like that, then they won't be around. I understand it. But I want us as the consumer to understand what is their goal. Their goal is to churn out people with degrees. Their goal is to bring people in so they get those few college classes in. College on average has like a 50% dropout rate. So that means people are spending their 2-3 years at university and never getting their degree. So you know what? All of that money that they're investing, They lost it. They wasted it. They wasted 100% of their education and degree. Unable to do it. So, yeah, I mean, maybe I'm just old-fashioned in believing that I would want to work with people who have integrity. But to me, the idea that 50, 60, 70, 80% of people that graduate from universities have cheated their way there, man, I have such a hard time thinking about our companies to today. Because like, okay, so you got your degree, but you took your shortcuts to get there. Why wouldn't you take those shortcuts here at my job? Maybe we just have better incentives. But I'll tell you this. If we actually care about the education of our future, and so many people cry and scream about education, and all they do is actually talk about, you need to go to college, because it's so important for your life. It's the thing that's going to help you be successful in life. They're more focused on getting people through the doors than they actually are making sure that they get an education when they're in the doors. Once they get in those doors, the universities are not doing their job. And I do want to suggest, absolutely, I am a huge proponent of education, which is why I have this channel, which is why I'm talking about this subject, and which is why I want them to make colleges better. If there was somebody who would help make colleges better, I want them to make them better. I want them to make them better. I want them to crack down on cheating. I want them to actually hold their students accountable. Like, in some cases, I've heard multiple stories of professors and teachers actually cheating for their students. They're cheating for their students. The school is actively harming other people. And of course, I think, man, we had one of the big problems when Bush signed in that bill, no child left behind, right? And that just made sure that it forced kids through the educational system, but it did not ensure that they actually got an education. This is the part where we have to go. Education is more important than a degree. You got to understand the education that somebody actually obtains, the knowledge you have, is really what makes you valuable. If you don't actually have knowledge or competency, then how can you consider yourself to hold down a job? How can you add value to somebody else? We deserve to earn money when we add value to somebody else's life. So I think it is a crying shame that universities have not focused on providing the education that everybody actually needs to grow and become a better place, a better society, a better place where people actually learn things. And unfortunately, I do think like people are learning less and less every year almost. But if people don't actually stop for a second and try and educate the public will never get any better. And universities will never get any better. And if universities don't actually hold some sort of standard when it comes to cheating and integrity, then they're just the next worthless degree.